are back here again for a final session here at the Health and Wellness program at Dubai, in EXPO 2020 in Dubai. So, digital health technologies and AI holds enormous potential to reimagine healthcare. And we can, with the scaling of digital patient solutions to improve healthcare outcomes, enormous future potential is, sorry, I am a bit tired, I must admit. Let's do this again. We have an enormous potential in AI, and I am very grateful that I can welcome our next keynote speaker, who is Christina Duran, Chief Digital Health Officer at R&D at AstraZeneca. Welcome.
Thank you very much, and hello everyone, good afternoon. I hope you're having a good day. So I'm coming today to talk about how digital health can reimagine cancer care. But let's start actually looking at cancer survival rates. And I've got currently presenting on the slide the percentage of patients that survive cancer over in the UK, depending on the tumor type and being alive after 5 years of being diagnosed with cancer. And this is the UK, but it's a similar trend. I've looked at it in the US, in different countries, and it's very similar, where in all countries, the good news is survival rates are improving, but it's still very different depending of the tumor type. And as you could see from the presentation earlier, lung is one that is lagging behind in terms of being screened, identified early. So there is lots of progress on screening and identifying, for example, breast cancer early, but less so on lung. And 46% of cancers are diagnosed late globally. So in the late stages, when there is obviously less of a chance for survival. So one key piece in cancer is how not only we can improve those survival rates, but how can we really transform those survival rates by detecting that cancer early. And that's why in AstraZeneca we believe that there are three things that are key on how to cure cancer. One is being able to hit the cancer earlier, being able to catch it early. That's critical. Probably if there was one area of focus is, for all countries is can we detect cancer earlier? The second one is making sure that when we detect it, we hit it hard and driving a deeper response, so we can, rather than reduce the tumor, eliminate the tumor. And I do believe that with digital technology, data, and I will provide some examples, we can also be much smarter in identifying the best pathway for patients, and also move from a term that is used in oncology of watch and wait, which is basically after treatment leaving patients and having some check-ins, but not having a continuous way to monitor that patient and detecting early again if that cancer is returning. So hitting earlier, hitting harder, and hitting smarter. And as part of the presentation, you will see that I do believe, obviously, as you saw at the beginning, 46% of cancers being detected late. That's when they are already severe and probably irreversible. And I think the focus should be more, as I was saying, going early in that detection, and we have that opportunity with digital data and AI. Let me try to bring it to life, but providing some examples. The first one is on hitting earlier. And it was the example that you had on the video before I started was Sue that had lung cancer. On the left-hand side, you've got lung cancer survival rates. So depending on the stage of cancer. So if the cancer is detected early at the stage 1, it's a very small tumor, not a spread. The probabilities of being alive 5 years after that cancer gets detected is between 70 to 92% probability that that patient will be alive. If it's detected in a stage 4, the cancer has already spread not only to the organs, sorry, to the tissues around the organ where it started, but it's in other organs, the probability of being alive is less than 10%. So huge difference. That's why hitting early, going early in cancer is critical. And as the video was saying, obviously the average screening methods, and obviously is trying to mention to patients that any symptoms, please go to your doctor, because the earlier that cancer is caught, the survival rates are just so different. But there is some opportunities as well coming for the future for it to be much easier to detect earlier. And on the right-hand side, I've got the example of liquid biopsy or ctDNA. So that's circulating tumor DNA fragments. You know, the tumors grow and the cells die, and the fragments of the DNA, they get clear through the blood. So there is now companies, for example, like Grail, that do liquid biopsy. So looking at blood tests, whether they can, through a blood test, review whether you have cancer or not. And they're trying, obviously, that science to move earlier, enable to detect it earlier for patients, even when they are asymptomatic. So they don't have symptoms, imagine. And for example, with the NHS, we have a consortium, and the NHS is running a study with Grail on patients that are about the age of 50, and just doing a blood test to check whether they have cancer, and it can detect cancer from different tumor types. So imagine in the future, you can see that potential of having annual blood tests to check and make sure that that cancer gets detected early. But there is obviously other screening methods today. So as we are obviously really excited about the future of liquid biopsy, I think that we also need to call out that the screening methods that we have today for lung cancer are extremely important to be able to help more and more patients. And the health economics has shown is better for patients, and it's also cheaper to make sure that support patients in the earlier stages as well. So it's a win-win-win for everyone. The second example on being on that earlier path of diagnosis for patients is the power of digital data and AI on identifying the best pathway for patients. And there is obviously cancer is not a cancer. Is obviously there are really differences in terms of the type of cancer, the genomic variants of the cancer, the germline of the patient, a lot of obviously different treatments available, and different pathways that the physician can take, and guidelines are obviously updated in countries. With technology, with digital and AI, more and more there are going to be solutions that help physicians. So it would be physicians with the help of AI to identify what is the best pathway based on data to get the best outcome for that patient. So the example that I've got here is from the US, where the company is already providing, with the lab results of the genomic testing, what is the treatments available for that patient based on all that data available and guidelines, and what are the clinical trials that also match and they are available for that patient. So I see a future where obviously it's going to be probably easier as well from a physician perspective to put that multimodal data together to find the best path for patients. Next is looking at hitting harder, and here is where AstraZeneca obviously is I'm very proud to work for a company where it's also looking at how we can hit harder with all the different modalities. And we do have a really diverse portfolio of compounds, both looking on the right-hand side of the circle, a direct killing of the tumor, and some new technologies to replace chemo with much more targeted. So rather than using solutions that are toxic for the entire body, is much more toxic for the tumor itself. And then on the left-hand side, also solutions to activate the immune system. So obviously we just need to be smarter on how we target much harder that tumor, and we are looking at multimodal in terms of solutions to be able to both directly or with combinations make sure that we hit harder at that tumor when it's detected earlier. The other benefit of digital data and AI beyond the earlier diagnosis and beyond the looking at what is the best decision support for the clinician to find the best path for patients is also to make sure that when patients get treatments, they're not left on their own. So I do believe that with digital health, we can provide a much more holistic care for patients to support them through the treatment. Cancer treatments can have obviously adverse events. The patients they may have adverse events, and it's important to make sure that we do look after them. The study that I'm showing on the left-hand side is actually with a multitude of drugs, not within cancer, in breast cancer, not from multiple companies, and just looking, for example, at patients that had breast cancer and they had within their electronic healthcare records an indication of having pneumonitis or other type of interstitial lung disease, and 70% of them had some keywords on the electronic healthcare records. The more interesting piece, and some when you were looking at the patient journey in terms of the treatment, some of it was missed in terms of some of the symptoms before some of the treatments were given as well. And 70% of those patients had symptoms earlier on. So there are some signals as well that if they had been caught early, some of those patients could have maybe some of those patients died from pneumonitis, for example. So how could that have been avoided? So it's important to have also solutions that do care for that patient holistically, and we're working as well on solutions to make sure that that does not happen in future. So how can we also support from a symptoms monitoring perspective to predict and prevent adverse events? More importantly, it has already been demonstrated that by monitoring patients during treatment and after treatment, survival rates can increase significantly. So on the left-hand side, you've got a study by Dr. Ethan Bach back in 2017. This one is based on lung cancer, where patients post the lung cancer in the later stages of lung cancer, but they were monitored rather than monitor wait and watch. They were monitored with a remote solution to help with 7 symptoms. And what they prove is that they increase survival rates when those symptoms were regularly monitored and alerting the physician if there was a significant change for some key ones, because he was detecting that the cancer was returning. So they managed to give 5 to 7 months to those patients, but also they improved their quality of life by 31% and reduce emergency care. So based on that, in those studies, we are actually working with Ethan Bach to develop the next generation of this type of solutions so we can provide that monitoring support to patients. So we're working on a solution called CARE to make sure that we can monitor those patients during treatment and post-treatment to improve that holistic care for patients. And this is just my last slide, my final comments in terms of that it does require a collaboration and partnerships with healthcare systems, innovators and obviously pharma companies. And I believe that we can cure cancer if we focus on that early diagnosis, that early treatment in combination with digital monitoring to be able to disrupt today to cure cancer together. So thank you for having me today and appreciate and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.
Yes, thank you so much, Christina Ron. Please stay with us a bit here. You say here in your final comment that it's collaboration that is key to success. But I was wondering, what do you see as the main hurdles? Because obviously there are big achievements going on here, but what are the biggest hurdles to implement this on a broader?
On a broader scale, so it's a very good question, and we're obviously working in partnerships with healthcare systems, and they obviously there are so many different priorities that healthcare systems have at the moment that sometimes to reimagine a healthcare path requires obviously a whole transition of how do you do a screening in a much more distributed way across a country. When you have in different countries, it may be not all centrally coordinated, it may be all distributed. So doing that change takes an effort in terms of across a healthcare system, and even on lung screening, getting those lung screening percentages to be higher in countries is still very different depending on which part of the country you are. So it does require partnerships. I think the health economics have shown that is better for patients, is better in terms of from a budget perspective, but it does require a significant change. So that's where I believe consortiums focusing on the outcome. So we have, for example, a consortium in the UK focusing on how do we get 75% of patients diagnosed early by 2028. So if you saw the figures of 46% get diagnosed late, so how that gets shifted significantly. And that's why they're working on different exercises, including that screening on asymptomatics to make a change paradigm in the system.
The audience had a question this morning, and they will get it again later today, that do you believe that cancer will be a chronic or treatable disease or curable disease by 2030? What's your view? Would you say yes or no?
Cancer is not one thing, it's multiple number of things. I think we do have a potential to make it more of a chronic disease if we are able to shift and detect it earlier. And I'm really hopeful that obviously we can find, we can see those percentages and cure to shift significantly, especially on lung cancer. I think it's a big fight. And it's not just one. It seems to mutate. So you win one battle, and then it seems to mutate into different things as well. So I am really hoping that by detecting it early, we can have a much bigger win against cancer. And then we are focusing on that earlier screening. I do hope that by 2030 we do have this type of screening at home. So imagine it on an annual basis or a regular basis. We have this screen to check. Very simple blood test in your bathroom that, you just check and it just makes you all clear. And it's not the dreaded C word that we have today, because it's a different way to manage cancer.
That's a great vision. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge, Christina Duran at AstraZeneca. We are getting towards the end of these two intense health and wellness days here from the Swedish pavilion in EXPO 2020 in Dubai. And it's time to start wrapping up this second day where the focus has been on cancer. And I would like to call up our following speakers to the stage. And you will not be able to sit this time. It's because we are doing a rapid poll with you. So, but still, please welcome Mr. Anders Ekholm, Dr. Björn Suega, Dr. Bettina Ryll, Dr. Humaid Al-Shamsi och Dr. Jenny Nordborg. Please welcome. And as you can see, it's time for a question again at Menti.
Yes.
Because in the beginning of the day, we asked you if you think that cancer will be a curable disease by 2030. And we ask you again. If I remember it correctly, it was 2/3 of the answers that thought so in this morning. We will see in a bit where we are today. Because this will also be the final question for this, and sorry, Hans, you are here as well. Hans Hägglund, yes. The final panel here, because I have two questions that you can answer, all of you, by not in the same time though. Cancer as a chronic or treatable disease, when will it happen? Not if, but when. And what is your key takeaway from these intense days, both from stage and of course in all the meetings you've been to? Will you do something differently after being here at EXPO 2020? Hans Hägglund, please start with your reflections.
So the first question was?
When will cancer be a treatable disease?
Well, for some diagnosis, pretty soon, within a couple of years, probably. And for others, it will take more time. And, no one here can say when. unfortunately. But hopefully, as I started out this morning, sooner than 30 years from now, I would say.
And the second question was, what will you do differently tomorrow? Will you do something differently tomorrow?
Yeah, well, I think that we have spoken a lot about collaboration, cooperation, and when we do that, I think we speak about, the known stakeholders, but it's also of importance to invite unexpected people and stakeholders. We're not thinking about the gaming industry, the finance sector, the military, or whatever it is, but we have to think about that. And I also think that, it's of importance that we don't create our own silo within the innovation part. So we have to talk to the patient, talk to the healthcare sector, so that the physician, the nurses, the paramedics understands what we are saying. And my last word is trust.
Thank you, Hans. I will turn then to Jenny Nordborg. When do you think that cancer will be a curable or chronic disease?
I can't say anything else than our cancer expert from Sweden, Hans. Well, but then hopefully we will start to see, and not only to be a curable disease, but to be able to implement the cure of the disease. That's what I would like to happen. If I would like to see that, having to see that scale by 2030, then I would be extremely happy.
Mm-hmm. And will you do something differently tomorrow?
I will definitely try and do something differently tomorrow. I think it has been 2 fantastic days. I'm very impressed from the government offices in the dialogues with the with all through the programs, of course, but also to deepen our collaboration with the Abu Dhabi Ministry of Health and Prevention, the Abu Dhabi Department of Health, moving forward not only to have collaborations in separate silos, as you say, Hans, but also on the ecosystem. We think so much alike when it comes to precision medicine and when it comes to the challenges ahead. So we definitely look forward to deepen the dialogue, and I hope to see a delegation from the Emirates in Sweden soon, when we can sort of start moving that also forward.
So we will turn to Dr. Hamad.
So to answer your questions, I think we've made a huge progress over the last 20 years. For example, breast cancer, colon cancer, patient with advanced stage, they used to live for around 6 months. Now they're living many years. We are curing many patients with early stages, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, we're still 50-50. So I think there has been a huge progress. So we really have to acknowledge that, we are doing better than what we did 20 years ago. Are we going to be able to cure cancer in the near future? I don't think so. I think our knowledge is still lacking. As we discussed earlier, the cancer is very, very complex story. In fact, currently I'm writing a paper about how can we cure cancer. And I'm acknowledging all these challenges and how can we move forward with the field. Regarding what I'm going to do differently, I've been, and I currently, and I'll keep doing it tomorrow as well, is to increase the awareness about the prevention and early detection. If you want to beat cancer, we have to increase the awareness about these 2 aspects. I think curing cancer at advanced stage will take time, but we can make a difference today by increasing the early detection screening, despite all the challenges, but especially in our country and our region, I think these are the 2 critical things that we have to tackle, trying to accelerate progress and to prevent cancer.
Thank you. Bettina Rill, what do you say?
Well, it's getting harder with everyone who has spoken, right? So I fully agree that I also am doubtful that we can attach a year to the day we will be able to cure cancer. So I see it as the aspiration at the ceiling. And I believe that we are moving towards it, converging, but never reaching it. So what I'm rather interested in is how fast we're converging towards it. So I'm interested in the slope of it. What can we do most effectively to save as many lives as fast as possible, so starting tomorrow? What I will do differently is, I think the last 2 days have been a reminder of the diversity we live in. We are very similar. We are cancer devastates families, and that doesn't differ from the place you live in. But different systems take different approaches, and I think it's actually a challenge to be aware of what is already happening elsewhere that we could learn from and that would help us and help solve our problems. So very concretely, I will read up on your policy sandbox, and I will look at the optimization of flow efficiency that our Indian colleagues have just presented, because I think it's a fantastic example of turning efficiency discussions around from a resource efficiency paradigm that we are currently using in hospitals to a flow efficiency one. So that is what I'm going to concretely do. On Friday, tomorrow I'm going to sleep.
Oh, okay, yes, that's good. Björn Swecare from Karolinska Institutet, what do you say? Do you think cancer will be a treatable or curable disease?
Be a chronic disease.
When?
Maybe if I'm not a betting man, I'm more of a sportman who likes to win matches. So it sounds dull, but I sort of if I would put money somewhere or guess somewhere, I would say like 98% of cancer will be a chronic way in 20 years, hopefully. Yeah. What's the takeaway message for us from the Karolinska University Hospital? We see the willingness and the need for more collaboration, and especially in the area we're standing now, and hope we'll open up to such connections for the future.
That's great. And finally, Anders Ekholm, what do you say? Is it a chronic disease, cancer?
Well, it is a hard question, of course. 1971, Richard Nixon, the US president, he levied the war on cancer. So they put a lot of money, a lot of regulations to solve the riddle of cancer within 10 years. So cancer showed out to be a bigger bite to chew on than they originally thought, but all development is S-shaped. So when you are going to do predictions for everything, it depends on where on this shape you are. So if you are here, you say nothing will ever happen. But then slowly, gradually, it increases and accelerates and so forth. And I think we are here somewhere. And during the 2020s, I think we are going here. But then again, the technology of today that we are just implementing, they will reach limit, and then we will top off, and then we will have some new technology. But it's I mean, the question is also, where's the threshold, like 98%, or is it 70? Or so for some cancers, we probably already can view it as a curable disease. But the last cancer here, it's probably 50 years or something. But coming up to 90% or 95 or something, which is, I mean, extremely good, that will take much shorter time.
Mm. And I will adjust the final question for you, because as you are a man who likes to look into the future and are used to that, have you changed your future perspectives during these days? Will you adjust your...
Actually, I wrote about everything we have spoken about today for 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. So this is about...
I don't know if I... will we go here?
So I'm very pleased to see all the thoughts are fulfilling. And well, nothing is wrong, actually. So check. So I have to... What should I think about now?
Yes.
I mean, it's a very desperate question. But I'm right now I think about optimum regulation. So how can we do laws and regulations and so forth to combine ethics, technical advancements, and population health at the same time? And that's not a simple question, and I think we need some systems for this. So I'm currently thinking of some government tech to aid policy making. I don't know what will come out from that, but...
Keep on thinking, I would say. And maybe we could take a look at the Menti answers now as a final... Oh, you're asleep, I would say. But we have pretty much the same 2/3 say yes and 1/3 say no. Am I counting like... yes, I am.
Yes.
Yes. 75%.
One quarter.
Yes, thank you. 1/4. So we have shifted a bit, right? Yes. Anyhow, I would say Thank you so much for this final thoughts from you. More to think about for the future and a lot of new thoughts coming with you home. And we hope that we have also brought some new thoughts back here to UAE. Thank you.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you.